Hey there, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Nadia.
Welcome to Navigating New Ground, where we dive into real honest conversations about navigating life transitions away from home.
We're here to share our journeys, hear yours, and remind you that no one has to navigate new ground alone.
Today's episode, a love story, two lives combined. We are diving into a heartfelt story of love, partnership, and the coming together of two different life paths.
And today we'll get the chance to listen to how they have built not only a life, but also a business driven by purpose, passion, and a shared dream. Some of our listeners may remember Daniela. Welcome, Daniela and Tionke.
Thank
Ooh,
you.
Thank you. Thank you to you.
welcome. Thank you for coming back to our podcast, and this time bringing Tivongo along. Would you like to briefly introduce yourselves?
Yeah,
Yeah. Good. Ladies first.
ladies first. So I'm Daniela Tembo. I'm the wife to Tuange. I'm happy that my husband joined this time. I'm an intercultural trainer. We have three kids together. We live abroad in Malawi, and we built our business together called Love Story, which is a beautiful and a long path. And we have lots to share and hopefully lots to give to you to as an encouragement.
Yeah. I'm Tuonge Tembo. So yeah, I'm the founder of Love Story, and yeah, professionally, I was a lawyer, and now I'm a father of three and a husband to one. And yeah, it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having us. Yeah, Love Story is just a beautiful journey that I believe God is still doing through our lives. And now that we're a social impact business, we look forward to this amazing journey with Him and with all of you too.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Can you share a little bit more about what Love Story is, who it's for?
Yeah, definitely. Love Story originates from actually Daniela and I's story. It actually comes with a lot of heartbreak, but a lot of union. So it started off, I would say, a vision that I had in 2015. And through 2015, to 2010, actually, I had lost my partner. She died in a car accident, and then during that particular time, I was really much very alone and in a very dark place. And then God moved me into the church and working into the church as I was studying and doing my law degree. And I always prayed in my heart. I said, "Oh Lord, I wish you'd bring me a partner who would help me along the way, who'd also be able to wipe away these tears of the remembrance of my partner who I had lost." And it came only as a blessing when when I was lecturing in biblical justice in a missions training base where Daniela had come along, and I saw this lady and I was like, wow, beautiful. And at the time, Daniela was singing in worship, and I was like, wow, what a lovely lady. But at the time, also, I had a job offer as national director to start off a new project in Malawi, and I actually had to leave off my job and give it to someone else. And I said, "Wow, this seems to be a good replacement," and I wanted her to replace me in my job. And then we started talking and connecting, and I told Daniela, "Oh, I'll be coming to Germany very soon." And what is so very interesting is that this sparked off something very, I think, very symbolic for Daniela, because God had spoken to her as well about this particular situation and scenario. And from then on, yeah, love story literally was what was birthed. I think the next part, Daniela should actually share that.
Yeah, so actually, the way how we met was I was in South Africa and I never wanted to go to Africa, honestly speaking. Like, I had a heart for South America all the time. And then God called me into Africa and I was starting to deal with him, right? And like saying, like maybe South America is better. Can we not do South America? And then God was like, no, I'm very clear on Africa. So long story short, I went to Africa, like the second time then to South Africa. And before I went, I had a vision, and I knew I'm going to marry a Black man, and I knew I'm going to go to South Africa and I'm going to meet him there. And I was like so shocked. And I thought to myself, that's absolutely not what I could ever imagine for my life, right? I had like a very fixed plan for my life. Like I'm marrying with 25, having kids with 27. I was already like end of 20 as I even went to Africa. So my whole plan was not even working out, but I put everything before God's throne like years ago. And then, so one of my last points in my journal was meeting my husband. But the priority was more like, I'm finding my own way, I'm calming down, reading the Bible, all of these things. So as I was at this base for the mission discipleship training where we had like prayers every morning, and then God called me deeply into empowerment for women. And I really had a big passion for that. But I didn't also want to do it alone anymore. So I sent just this little prayer and say, hey, God, I really don't want to do it alone anymore. And if you call me back to Africa, please, can you send this husband now? So now the next day, Tuonga came with a team of 3 other people who were talking about anti-human trafficking work. And that was actually something what God called me into. So I saw Tuonga there, but I didn't get it in that moment. But my other prayer was, can you please send this husband to Germany so that he can support me like spiritually and emotionally? So we had lunch together and we were sitting, and it was like Kartoffelsalat and Würstchen on that day, like very random, right? Yes, and then we talked. And then he says, oh, wow, you're from Germany. That's so interesting. I have to go to Germany this year. And in this moment, I knew, freak, that's my husband, right? I felt like I'm so crazy to know this. So I didn't want to tell this to anyone. And I just kept it in my heart. So we started chatting a little bit. I think it was like Facebook Messenger during that time.
Yeah, no, Skype.
Skype afterwards. Skype, first Facebook Messenger, I think.
Facebook Messenger, Skype, WhatsApp. And back then, WhatsApp didn't have the call, it had call function, but the issue was it took so much data to call back then. And South African data prices are like seriously expensive. And I was on this like NGO salary where all my funds were going to telephone and fuel. So it was really very tough time, but also beautiful time. And so we communicated quite a lot, but we made it very clear, I think, in the relationship in the get-go that I don't want you to come just because of me. I want you to come for the purpose that God has made you for, and for the purpose that you're called to complete in this world. Because so many times I feel in relationships, we can kind of put God aside and say, let's focus on the relationship. But the reality is that God should always be in the center of the relationship. God should always be in the center of the calling. God should always be in the center of the business. God should always be in the center of the vision, because we live to honor God. We live to worship. So that is very clear in the relationship, and she made that very clear. And fortunately for me, and unfortunately for her, she applied for the job, and the Home Affairs, which is the Ausländerbehörde of South Africa, denied her visa. I think, was it twice? Twice they denied her visa, and during that time as well, I came to Germany. So as I was in Germany, we had been communicating for about 9 months online, and on 6 months.
It was like 4 or 5 months actually. So we met in July, and then in December, Tuonga came to Germany. So we only had this half year to communicate online, and then in January we already got engaged, and in May we got married. So we were like, but it was like, people sometimes say, well, that's so fast, right? But I believe if you know that's the person God has put into your life, there's no point of like waiting for 3, 4, 5 years to just check, maybe not. If you have that clearance from God, there's nothing which can work against it.
Yeah, I believe so much when it comes in relationships as well. A man knows immediately when a man sees his wife. Immediately, you know. And it was something when the first time I saw her singing and standing on stage and singing, and I looked at Daniela, I was like, yeah, yeah, that's definitely her. Do that immediately. And I said, and I said, okay, but what hurdles are there? What should I cross? What should I do? But I feel this is the right person. I just feel it in me. And I believe so much that society as it is makes it very difficult because so many complications come in the way and so many emotions. But at the end of the day, it's always the vision. It's always the joint vision that brings you together. And in Christianity, when both your vision is to worship and you're called to make a difference, to make a change, to work for God, for Christ, then that's your partner right there, you know. So there are challenges along the way, and there are certain flags and you should look for, but there was this level of peace. And when I remember when I had proposed to her in Rome, I really felt like, you know, I said, you know, I think it was Paul. Yeah, Paul, Simon Paul. He was crucified in Rome upside down. And I said to myself, wow, where he had left off is where I want to start, you know? And so I proposed to her in Rome. And then afterwards, it was crazy because at this point in time, we had the biggest argument in our relationship ever. Like,
Crazy.
biggest argument.
Just
It was just engaged. Following day, the argument was so petty. I wanted to go to the Colosseum. She wanted to go to the airport. And I said, I come from Africa. I have to see the Colosseum. You have this all the time. I definitely have to see the Colosseum. So went to the Sixtine Chapel, went to the Vatican, and I was like, we have the time to go see the Colosseum. I have to do this. And this is where she was like, no, I'm not coming with you. I was like, what? You're wearing my ring and you don't want to come with me? You have to trust
I
me.
think, that is like the first part we realized how important cultural differences are, right?
Yeah.
Because for Tuwong, it was like, we can easily manage time. We can quickly go have a shot, at the Colosseum, take a picture, we go straight to the airport. But for me, it was like, we go and then we sit and, we walk around. So we won't manage before we get into the plane. So there it stopped. And then we didn't know really how to communicate to each other. So long story short, Tuwonga went to the Colosseum. I took a bus to the airport.
No, you went to the she went to the Airbnb to pack the bags.
To pack the bags alone, right? And I was so furious because now I had to pack our bags alone. Tuwonga had this fun of going to the Colosseum. I was 100% sure he won't make the plane.
Yeah.
So
anyways, she goes, packs the bags. I meet her at the bus station. I grab my bag. I get on the bus, and she misses the bus. And I get to the airport. And now the Italians are very funny because I'm in the airport, but she has the passports and everything. And then I check in, everything is done because everything was on my phone. I'm in. And then the airport security comes and taps me on the shoulder. Sorry, there's a woman looking for you. So it was such a tense experience at security where everyone was quiet, and then they could see this lady very upset and very angry. I had to go in, check her in, get her stuff in, and everyone was like, "Oh, everyone is like very quiet." I'm getting our stuff, and then afterwards in the plane we hold hands and we say sorry, and then we fly back to Hamburg. So yeah.
It was crazy, right? Because Tuwonga had the passports.
No, you had the passports.
I had the passports. He had the tickets.
Yeah.
So none of us could actually go without each other, right? But like in that moment, we didn't know. So it was just like
So that was a little bit of a baptism by fire. But that's when we knew. I think that's when I knew, and that when it comes to relationships, patience, forgiveness, understanding goes a very long way. And at that time, we also knew that interculturally we are very different, and it's very important to be very understanding with each other. But yeah, so that's like the birth of the love story, and the relationship that led to the business. And yeah, that's how we met, how we formed. And then from then on, I got the job and in Malawi. And when I got the job in Malawi, it was by an American organization that had an international American organization that had pinpointed me and wanted me as a project or national director in Malawi. And at the time, I told them, "Oh, I'm engaged now, and I will not come to your interview if I don't come with my partner, my fiance." So they booked tickets for us on for my interview, and then they flew us to Nepal. So during our time in Nepal, Daniela was sick for a whole week. So she couldn't do anything because she brushed her teeth with the water. And
No.
so, yeah,
Bad.
it's
It was
terrible.
bad.
And she was sick in bed. And then, at the time, my boss was like, "Oh, who's this lady who you brought who just sleeps in bed all day?" I was like, "No, she's amazing." But yeah, so afterwards, I got the job. Went to South Africa, left my previous job, and then we moved to Malawi, and that's when God really started working in our hearts in Malawi. Because we soon I introduced her to my father had already met her online. Then I introduced her to my mom. And at the time when we had arrived in South Africa, my dad was actually admitted in ICU in hospital because he had collapsed. And when my father had seen her, they moved him out of ICU. He was so happy. And I think that was another confirmation and such a blessing. I was like, wow, she's an angel. She got her father out of hospital. So that is really beautiful. My dad was so very happy, and they finally held hands and touched, and it was just such a blessing. And we did the whole Cape Town tour, and my mom met her as well. My mom was very happy. My mom was a bit like, okay, who's this person? What is she like? But my mom fell deep in love with her and is still very in love with Daniela because Daniela is so transparent. You know where you stand with her all the time, and it's very beautiful. Where sometimes in Africa you have to guess, like, where do I stand with this person? So my mom just loves the transparency of Daniela because she doesn't have to guess. She just knows this is where this is where that is. So I have to be like this, and it's okay. So she doesn't like guessing, she just likes certainty. That's my mom because my mom is the businesswoman, a very big businesswoman, and she just likes clarity and not, playing games. So they met and they loved each other, and I was very fortunate and very lucky of actually very blessed, you know. And so then we moved back. We moved around South Africa, and then we moved to Malawi, and that's where the journey had really started, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Love Story Coffee actually really started in South Africa in this little cabin of
Yeah.
Tuange because he was staying
Yeah.
in such a little cabin, and we were
It
just
was a
thinking,
beautiful
yeah,
cabin.
it's a beautiful
Yeah.
cabin actually.
Beautiful
Yeah,
cabin.
like a super little kitchen, super little bathroom, but nice. So anyways, we sat on this couch. No, you were sitting on the bed, I was sitting on the couch, and we were just thinking about coffee because like I really loved drinking coffee, and Tuongo was already into this business mindset because from his mom, he just grew up like this, right? So then we were just thinking about a logo, and it just randomly came to our mind that, hey, why don't we put these two people together, and make it like a love story, like so two people, two continents, two cultures,
Colors.
two colors, make it one heart, one passion, one faith, and one love story.
Yeah.
And we always believed on that verse in 1 John 4:19. We love because he first loved us, because it was so deeply the foundation of our marriage. But also that's what we believe for the nation. It's always love first. It's very important to give someone that love, to come to someone, to appreciate someone, to get that step towards someone. And we believed with coffee, there's so much possible, because over a coffee, you can easily have a chat and connect. And then this logo came to us, and it was just like, wow, God, amazing. This is how we do it. And it shared our vision and our mission so easily that we got into this. And as we had our wedding celebration, we packed like 100 grams of coffee with that logo, and we gave it to people. And then from there, we started selling this coffee to churches, because we wanted to start within the church community. And then from there, now we are developing and sending coffee to schools and to other customers who really want coffee. And the coffee idea grew, and it was always like one of our, literally another baby, right? Because that's where we started with. That education was always a topic for us as well, because we both come from houses where our parents always took care of our education. It was very important for Tuong's parents, for my parents, to make sure that we are educated in a good way. So we felt that's the only way out. We can't just come and just talk to the people and say, hey, good things will come to you, but we have to bring them a tool to be equipped. And with that selling of the coffee, we made sure that the percentage always goes back into the community and the people we work with. And the education was never as clear until we moved to Frankfurt, and or even before, we realized, hey, interculturality is such a big topic within our marriage. And then it became just more understanding, hey, why don't we do something in this area? And then me being an intercultural trainer was something what I always was passionate for. And I was super blessed by the company who made sure that I can do that further education. And with that, it birthed the area of education very clearly, because now it's like, yeah, why don't we do this? I mean, coffee, education, interculturality, and business is something what we are really good at. So let's take that gift, what God has given us, and put it together. And that's where Love Stories is growing at the moment.
Definitely. I think love story in itself says it. What is the greatest love story of all time? I think for me, and for all of us here, the greatest love story of all time is that God did not be so proud to not come down on earth to die for us on the cross. He died, and when he died, he shed blood, and he rose again. And in rising, he defeated death. So that is for us the greatest love story that has ever been. That who are we, and why are we so worthy of God's own love, the creator of all things, and how valuable are we that he gives himself freely to us? And it's a great love story, and we want to summarize this love story also in our product. That our product is also one that can be used for ministry, because when they say love story, what is this love? The love story is the fact that it is God himself that loves you fully, completely, and unconditionally. And there is no greater love than one who gives his own life for another person. This is where the name Love Story originates, and that is important to share, because we can talk about so many different things and so many different callings, but that is very important. That is very key. That is the center of our vision. That is the center of our mission, for everyone to understand that Jesus Christ is Lord. And that is important. And so with our love story, though we said that 25% will go back to the community, it has turned out that we sometimes it's 60, sometimes it's 80%.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
that we give back to the community, that we're building, that we are building an intercultural training center, that we're building a library, that we're building community, that we don't buy shoes, we don't buy clothes, we always feel this should be used for the building, this should be used for the school, this should be used for the library, this should be used for the research. So it is a sacrifice, but it is also a joy. And joy is, I believe so much. As a man, I've always said, "Oh Lord, I want you to see me," and I don't know. It's very sometimes different and complicated because you want to be seen by your Father, and that is what I always long for. I want God to see me. Men, fine, you can see me, but I want God to see me. I want that recognition to come from God to say, "Oh wow, good and faithful servant," you know. And so that's what I long for in the love story, and that's what I believe Daniela herself, as a daughter of Christ as well, longs for in the love story. And our journey is made out of this sacrifice. And mostly humility and learning and teachableness. It's very important, very important.
Wow, thank you for sharing your really beautiful love story. I think it's just so timely because yesterday in our small group, we had a heat wave. Right, we are having a heat wave. That's why there weren't many people who came to the small group. There was just four of us, but we spoke about actually this verse in First Corinthians 13, and we were emphasizing on the first three verses on, like, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. And I
Yeah,
think these three verses,
yeah,
like what you say, you can do everything, you can do, or you can
yeah,
speak about a lot of things that you have done or have achieved, but if there's no love in it, then those are
yeah.
Yes.
Nothing,
nothing.
Yeah.
worthless. Yeah,
Yes.
just chasing the wind.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
think, so I guess here maybe we can like have um a, a group understanding on how what love story is. It is love, and it is everything, because it is for everyone, not just for people who love coffee, because I don't drink coffee, but it is for people who have love and needs love, and yeah, it is everything, because like you can bring interculture into this, but it's also out of love. And I think love story is just the beginning of love story right now, where you have coffee and intercultural training, but it can grow into so much more and more and more. And I think it's really exciting to see what God has in store for you both.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. It is very exciting because I think now we are about what, 8 years, 8 years old. 2018 till now. Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
eight
Yeah.
years old. So we are nearly reaching it at 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Are you able to share any stories of some of the challenges that you faced on this journey?
Oh, yeah. Opening a business comes with a lot of challenges. Um, a lot has happened to us. I think, let me share one of our, I would say, real tough challenges would be, of course, the pandemic. I feel so much that the pandemic affected a lot of businesses, especially for millennials, and because normally the strength of, I believe, a business comes within when you're pushing to your 27, 28, 29, when you're moving into those years, and 30s when you're starting to say, okay, wow, I'm realizing this. So during that period, I was like getting into my 30s, and Love Story had been established very well. We're doing very well in Malawi, and we're also starting to do very well in Berlin and create partnerships in Berlin, and starting to create more partnerships in Germany, and becoming very popular. And then when the pandemic had come, it was a time when yeah, everything had stopped. The coffee had stopped, and then I was so blessed because Daniela had a vision that something is going to come. So when Daniela had this vision that something was going to come, I think 6 months already, we started moving away, and we started packing everything, moving everything away, getting ready to leave and go to Germany and to settle for a while. And during that particular time, as we were moving and organizing to settle and getting everything packed, what basically had happened was we were broken into, the store was broken into, and guys had broken into our store in Blantyre, and then when they had broken the store into Blantyre, the police had come and they had tried to find the guys who had committed these crime, and we prayed about it, and it was very tough. But I said, you know what, Daniela, things are not good at the moment. So what I'm gonna do is I want you to go to Germany, and then I'll find you there. So she had booked her a ticket, and then she had gone to Germany, and then she had settled in Berlin at the time, and then I had to deal with the police and everything. And then 3 days later, they found the culprits, and they found all our things.
Wow.
They returned all our things, and then I started, okay, I packed everything that was of value, our coffee machines and everything. I moved it out of the store, and then I had organized for it to be moved away. And then at that time as well, because the landlord had felt that things might go wrong, I wrote him a letter. I said that it seems that there's a pandemic, and it's a catastrophe, and would suggest that we close our store and we move away. And I remember the landlord was like, oh, what is this pandemic? Nothing like that is going to happen. It won't be like that. And then I had moved away, but then the landlord decided to keep all the furniture. But I said, oh, let him keep all the furniture. All our important things are already gone, and we're getting it moved away. And so at that time, when I had organized and settled everything and moved everything away and then headed to South Africa, when I had arrived in South Africa, I think this was 2020, and it was around March. And I took the last flight before
They
all
closed.
flights were closed. I arrived in Germany, and the day I arrived, because it was the night, and then when I arrived, every flight was closed.
Crazy.
And then South Africa closed. South Africa, I think, was the first country to close every flight. And I remember when I was in the airport in South Africa, there was this Italians were not allowed to come into the country. Spanish people were not allowed to come into the country. They had a poster saying, "No flights from Spain, no flights from Italy, no flights from China. Everything has been grounded, and no flights are going there." And then I was like, "Wow, this is so strange." And then when I had arrived in Berlin, they're like, "There are no more flights occurring in South Africa. They've completely closed." And then at the time, the European Union, a few days later, closed everything. And then they had to organize. I remember it took months for them to organize their citizens to return back home, and people were stuck everywhere. And then I was with Daniela and the family, and that was a heavy challenge. That is a heavy, heavy challenge.
And then also we had packed some stuff because we had a business here, but we knew we might stay in Germany for some time. So let's actually, for at least Tuonge, start a coffee business in Germany. So we had packed like all the important
Container,
equipment in a container, and then this container didn't arrive within 2 years.
Yes.
And it was stuck in the Suez Canal, and like had to buy new things. But we moved to Germany. We had no support, so we had like just little income because it was just me making a 3-quarter job, right? I worked like 75 hours because we had Isaiah, our first son, already in Berlin during that time. We were like hopping from one house to another because we didn't find a flat, of course, because we didn't show that we had high income. So it was really tough. And then this container not coming, we didn't start anything. So from Berlin, because we couldn't settle properly, we moved to Rostock to try to find things going. So it was always like, we always had heldbacks in our business, right?
I think what is important to say is how the community, the church community, had helped us so much. I think, was it which church was it in Berlin? Methodist? Was it the Methodist church? There's a church, and then what they did is they asked one of their the Methodist church in Berlin was the one that opened its doors to one of its church members to give us a space to stay at their apartment, and that was such a blessing. And so we could. Her name was Marianne. What was her surname?
I don't know.
Yeah, her name was Marianne. And that was such a big blessing because what happened was we stayed with her and we were comfortable with her. It was such a blessing. And at that particular time in Berlin, when our container was coming through, our container was held for 2 years. And if you speak at shipping, a lot of agents and shipping companies will tell you the story of Love Story and Daniela and Tuonge Tembo and their container being held for 1 year and 8 months. So the thing about Berlin is when we had moved to Berlin, it was really a blessing because the Methodist Church had really helped out, and we had stayed with a beautiful old lady called Marianne in a beautiful area in Berlin called Kudam, Kufusundam, and Halensee, which is a very beautiful and popular space. And this was such a blessing because we could be a family in this space. And it was also very tough because in the shipping industry, when you speak of Tuonge and Daniela Tembo and Love Story, what they do know about us is the fact that it took 1 year and 8 months to get our goods back from the container. They were held at the Amt, and it was such a long process, and getting our things was so time consuming, so demanding. It took such a long time, and at the end of the day, we had to resort to going to the police and filing a case, and then the police had to get our goods released, and that was another struggle because we had to buy new coffee equipment. So we had literally this 5,000 euro coffee machine with a 1,000 euro grinder and all of these small little products that we needed to have. And at the end of the day, we had to result in buying a new coffee machine and a new coffee grinder that also costed the business quite a lot. And it's just a blessing when you look at all this income and all the finances that we received. God was really very good to us because he provided, he provided. And that was tough, but it it was really a blessing.
And have you ever doubted yourself in that process? Like, because you mentioned, Daniela, that the business always had some help back, and what keeps you going during these difficult seasons, or when you face challenges like this? Do you ever doubted that is this business really a right idea, or how do you find motivation to keep going?
I doubt myself a lot, like honestly speaking, right? I'm questioning myself a lot, especially when those heldbacks come. Sometimes I take the heldbacks as okay, something big is coming, and it's good that we face this at the moment because then I know breakthrough is coming. There are new doors opening, but not all the time I can see it like this. When I know also daily life is difficult, then business life is difficult, all different challenges to face. And then us being married and being literally the founders, all the topics surround around the business and the challenges a lot of times, right? And then I really question myself and I think, God, why am I here? Right? Why do I have to live this life? Like, what do you see in me that I have to be the part of this this story, this love story? But then I think what keeps me going is deep in my heart, I know I'm called for this, right? I know that God has given me Tuonge. I know that. And I think if I wouldn't know this, I would have given up on so many things. But because I know it was God Himself who brought Tuonge, it was God Himself who gave us the calling of love story. It was God Himself who gave us the passion of we want to change the world. I mean, as we on our wedding day, we promised each other, right? We do want to have an impact in this world. We do want to change the world to a better. And this is what we try daily. I mean, we fail, we get up again, we continue. And that's where my doubts come in, like naturally. And on top, I'm just absolutely not experienced in business. Like, I didn't grow up in a business family. I don't understand the concept of business. It challenges me all the time. I'm happy that Tuonge knows it much better than me, but also I think that is a big hurdle for me to understand, okay, we're married, but now, you close the box of your marriage, nice season, and then you talk business. It was very tough because then I was like, but Tuonge, I'm still your wife. Like, why would we talk about this? You know what I'm saying? Because then it's like your workmates and your colleagues, but you're still partners, love partners, which made it so difficult for me just to find the right boundary. And sometimes we had to go out to a cafe to talk business, right? Because like if we would talk business at home, I would like, no, I don't agree. I don't understand, like that I would do something else. So it's just this thing of growing into a passion and a life worth of the calling you have, right? So I do feel challenged a lot of times, and I do think like that sometimes. Tuonge thinks, what the heck, what type of crazy woman do I have to do with her? But, we get over it. I mean, we have 3 little kids. We learn this from scratch, and I'm actually very happy that we show them that this is daily life, and they see mom and daddy are working now. Even if they come and they grab some pancakes and they leave the door open while we have this podcast going, right? And you're just thinking, how's everything working outside? But they see each other in our successes, but they see each other in our failures, and they see how tough it is, but they see this is reality. And this is for me very important, that they don't see a fake business growing up. They see, okay, this is what mama and daddy doing, and they're doing it because they love Jesus and they do want to grow and impact, and we can do the same, right?
Wow, I think it's so amazing to see because for me, Daniela, when I first met you and I first see you, I knew you were doing many things, and then but I first knew you through your kids, because we were in kids, and at that time I just know that Tiwongo is a busy man, and he's always flying here and there, and we seldom get to catch him, but until later on when I realized that you were doing so many things, I was just wondering how many more facets, how many more role are you playing? Like from one day I know you are a mother, and then next day I know you are a nurse, and then from the small group from the Philippines, friends, I found out you were an intercultural trainer, and then now, and now getting to know Timonga, he's what he just mentioned. He's a lawyer. You, I'm so amazed how all of you, both of you, could do so many things, and I think it's a really good inspiration for everyone. And thank you for being so honest and so transparent on all the. It's not just smooth sailing all the time. That even successful people like both of you doubt yourselves, because that helps me also understand, like, okay, it's normal for me to doubt myself, and it's normal for everyone to doubt themselves. But the most important thing is to remember that you have this calling, and remember that God called you,
Yeah.
God brought you here, and He has a purpose, He has His plans, and we just need to have faith and continue to work through it.
Push on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And in Europe, you have to take walks. You have to walk. It clears the mind. Walk. Keep walking. If you feel sad, just get up and walk. It will help you a lot. Yeah. Sometimes your body just needs to move.
Yeah.
And I really like what you mentioned about making sure that what you do is for God. Because I was going through this discipleship program for couples, and they talked about how you should be ready to say yes to your husband, to the past, like how you guys grew up, and yes to something else. But then ultimately, I think it's so important to say yes to God first, and not just in your relationship, but in every single thing that you do. Because then, if that is not your core foundation of what you do,
Yes.
then everything is so frail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. I've seen, I think, Daniela in her best and in her worst. And I come from a place with only brothers. So, and what's even worse is I only went to boys' schools. So I'd never really, the only woman in my life was my mother, whom, when I was growing up, was always busy, and I never really grew up with her. So it was my first time seeing all of these reactions in someone in one day. And it can be very, very scary. But I always feel like, oh, maybe, as a man, maybe, yeah, maybe I'm just confused. Maybe I don't know. I should stop and I should feel myself more. And I always think like, oh man, how all of these reactions all at once? Oh no. So it's just one of those things where I believe so much that it can be, life is also made so difficult for the opposite sex, the opposite gender. And that should be also recognized, you know. For me, a man, it's one of those things where you have the confidence that it's either I go through or I break through, where I think for a lady, it's more, how do I maneuver this situation? And it's like a type of thinking where a woman can be like an X-Man, where she has to feel of how can she evaporate and reform at the other side. So it's such a different way, I think, of thinking, and the challenges that she faces and that I face are so different, but coming together, male and female, is different, because she approaches things differently, and how I approach things is also very different, and that's such a learning experience,
Mhm.
a big one.
Yeah. And where do you see God working in throughout this journey? I know you have shared so many stories, like moving forwards at this moment. Are there any more other influence that you would like to explore in this business that you have right now? Where do you see God leading you?
I think we both really have a heart for empowering and encouraging. So if
Yeah.
you say like, what would we like people to feel influenced by? It's just like we do want to encourage them to just start something and to not wait, because like as a German, and a lot of times you would just think, this is not perfect enough, like I have to me think through this 5 more times, and I have to adjust my business plan, or I have to adjust this and that. Doesn't matter what you do, and then it helps you back, and then you don't even start. And I think that's the biggest difference between us, right? Chiwonga just goes. And me, it's always like, no, we didn't think about this. No, we should rather leave it, right? I have a lot of creative ideas in my mind, but I wouldn't really execute them. Chiwonga is the person who has it in his mind, he executes it immediately. And that's what I would really love our business to be an inspiration for others, right? Have an idea, execute it. It doesn't matter if it works or not, but try it. And if you fail, go and do it again. But don't have this understanding of, hey, everything has to be first perfectly thought until you go. Like, really, let's be an encouragement for people to grow and to love beyond borders, to grow beyond borders, right? To overstep this little circle of yours, right? That's what I really love.
Yeah, and the greatest challenge we face right now, I think, in everything is also a mental health challenge. A lot of the times you can set up a business, you can start a business, and then like you say, what keeps you going? How do you continue? How do you go on? I think it's very important to always highlight to people and to everyone that it's very important to have a time of devotion, to sit down and to really have the time of just quiet devotion where it's you and it's God, and it's you being silent and trying to hear what God has for you. And in that time of peace is the strongest time. And this is what has really made us strong here. We make that time for devotion. We make that time to be in a quiet place, as God was in at the Garden of Gethsemane, and Christ was praying in all those gardens. You have to make that time. In making that time is where we recover as Christians. We receive a peace, because of God. When I believe He speaks, it's not something that can easily be understandable, but it's a level of peace that moves you to understanding I am enough. And that's the question of mental health, where you do not believe you're enough, where you believe you need this new car, this new phone, this new clothes, this new shoes. And in a society where we want to consume everything to be enough, that's when we have to come back and draw from the well, the living water, from Christ Himself, from the Word of God, and be in silence and say, Lord, am I enough? And that confirmation comes from God. So that's something very important in starting a business, in living your calling, in accessing your vision. So that's something that cannot be stressed enough. It's very important to find that time where it's just you, yourself, peace, and God. Yeah, very important.
I'm really really curious when you talk about quiet time. Um, do you often do it together as a couple, or like you have your own private, separate quiet time as well? Just
Oh,
I'm curious, you know
we're
why?
not, we're
Because
not, we're not, we're not, we're not that romantic, eh?
because sometimes why
We do things, yeah.
sorry, why I asked that, because I mean I tend to have my own quiet time, and
Yeah.
my husband, he's also a really logical person. I think his quiet time is not like me, where I have to, you know, sing worship loud and then journal and really go deep into my emotions. His quiet time is he do something with full focus on whatever it is. Maybe it's um in his work, or it's cooking, or it's games. He that is his quiet time with
Yes.
through his thinking. And sometimes I always think like maybe we have to come together for our quiet time, which we also have. We will come together and have prayer time together. But yeah, I'm just curious on how both of you navigate this.
Yeah, definitely. I believe so much. I think it's in the tough times where we come together. When it's tough, we definitely come together. We pray together. We in silence together, and we just hold each other. And this can become very challenging when you have three kids,
Mm.
because it's like you have three shadows following you all the time. And then all of a sudden, you have another person who jumps in bed with you. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to be alone. And then you're like, oh, okay, it's just her. And then she's also just nice and silent. And it's like, oh, good. We can do our own thing and we can rest. So, quiet time, normally we do it separately. So when we're talking and receiving from God, it's always a thing where we do it separately. And then in tough times is when we come together. So it's separate and then together. It's separate together. There's not one single way of doing it.
Mm.
Having that quiet
And I
time.
think it also changed, right? I mean, in the beginning, as
Yeah.
we were newly married, it was different. We had so much more time
Yes.
to sit and to chat. But now, with having the family life is very different. So it's more like Aya Chuang is doing something, and then his mind is like maybe focused in prayer or in thoughts. And for me, when I have to bring our smallest girl into bed, like that's usually the seasons which I take now when I hold her and I carry her. That's times when I pray. Or when I have the kids and then they say, okay, let's pray. Or when we listen to some worship, the kids, like, thankfully, right, they love worship, so we have like loud worship and then we dance throughout the whole house. Like, those are the seasons. And then usually I love the moments when the kids are dropped off at school and Ada's sleeping and I can just sit here and journal, because like what Melissa, you said, that's like my way, right? I need to journal, I need to think. Like, I would love to have like 2 hours to just do that, right? But unfortunately I don't. So time is tough and tight, but still God is speaking through your daily routines. What is happening, and then these important informations, then we share it, and then I say, oh, I've received this and this, so what do you think about this?
Yes.
Just pray about that. Yeah.
When it comes to what she received, this is a blessing to me, because all I always pray for is just peace. I just want silence. I just want peace. I just want things to stop. I just want things to slow down. So I only just want peace. I don't ask God for anything but peace. Like, Lord, peace, just peace. Please, peace. I want to go out and have peace. I don't want to go there and fight with anyone, just peace. That's all I always ask for. And that's just me. So when I don't hear anything, I'm like, oh, thank you for the peace, Lord. And then she comes, Tuonge, God has told me this. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Thank you. And write it down, and then it's fulfilled.
It's very nice, very nice. Thank you for sharing that. And perhaps we could close with this question. How do you hope to influence other businesses? What kind of example are you setting for them? Or maybe if you have any advice for anyone who's about to start their business, what would you have to say to them?
Yeah, a lot of the times this is a difficult question, because everyone is going through their own thing.
Yeah.
Everyone is it's difficult to understand everyone's suffering, but everyone is going through something and everyone is suffering through something. And the world is not always dandies and roses and flowers.
Yeah.
And I think it's in recognition of the suffering of others, is to say that, remember, God is always with you. And always put God first. And it's always important to understand that God knows what you're suffering through is not small. It's great. We live in a society where a lot of people are suffering through loneliness and through identity, and so many confusing ideologies and doctrines are moving around. And they forget this love story. They forget this love story. They
Mhm.
forget that they are worthy of the love of the one who created everything.
Mm.
And that's one thing that they should understand and should know about love story. It is in the love story that they they are valued. They are valued by God. So I can easily say, if you have a business in mind, start, but start with the realization to know that you're loved, you're appreciated, and then go forward in maturity, in wholesomeness, and that's the way. That's the way. That's love story.
Mm.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Daniela and Timonga, for sharing your beautiful story. I mean, I keep have so many different thoughts in my mind as you share
Yeah.
different stories. I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to rewatch this again and again in order for me to even absorb everything. And then I'm so inspired by what both of you are doing. Really, thank you so much for sharing this with our community, with our listeners. We are so grateful to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on Navigating New Ground. We hope today's conversation gave you some insight, support, or just a reminder that you're never alone on this journey.
If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, and share it with someone who might need it. You can find and follow us on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
Until next time, take care.
Bye.